Your mic's volume went down a bit,
Oh, it did? How's it sound now?
I think.
Is it any
Um,
better?
it just sounded a little farther. Everyone sounds basically the same, but you sound a little farther.
Okay, let me check my
I mean, we could hear you, but you just
yeah, it
sounded
might
a
have
little farther.
I've been having issues today with Zoom. Let me see. Yeah, it's still on the microphone. Can you hear me okay? It sounds a little different, but you still can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can still hear you. Just go on. Just go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. Yeah, let me know if that changes anymore. I'll take these headphones off.
There, there, there. You're back
It's
to
okay now?
normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the computer was still laughing at that poster. Yes, it was taking time to. All right. Okay, well, if you remember, we've been in the world of English grammar, and I think getting further and further down the pit of English grammar. So, well, I'll just keep covering different topics that I think hopefully will help you, not just with uh, scripture. Obviously, that's our goal, but even just with the language itself. There's quite a few unique aspects to English. A lot of rules, of course, as you know very well, but we'll see how those things kind of show up in Scripture, and it does cause us, I think, to recognize how much even more important it is to remember Paul's words to us, to be diligent to show ourselves approved, not being ashamed when we stand before the Lord, answering for what we've taught. And as he says, be diligent to show ourselves approved, handling accurately the word of truth. And I'm just reminded of that. I was reminded of that today, just studying and preparing for this class and some others. Uh, just the importance of understanding the grammar of the language. And obviously, our focus is English, but this definitely applies to Greek. Much of what we learn here is similar in Greek, and it's just so important. I was studying a passage and just doing it in English, and I went to the Greek text and just realized um, how much we rely on grammar and understanding grammar to help us understand what the author's saying. And then, of course, that's what we're after, the author's intent. But I just was reminded how much effort it does take. And obviously the Spirit must guide and direct and open our minds and give us understanding. But as you've heard me say many times, the Spirit doesn't bless laziness. Certainly he's the one that gives us what we need to study and preach, but he doesn't bless lazy preachers, nor he doesn't bless proud ones either. So we have to be diligent, but also dependent. With that, I want to take us back to where we left off in our discussion a few weeks ago, and that was we were looking at prepositions as part of this whole understanding of these connector words that are so important in diagramming a passage because they show us how to break down a passage. Again, hopefully this is a very familiar little diagram here in identifying how a sentence is constructed with the independent clause and other phrases and clauses that are all linked, connected together by these connector words. We looked at conjunctions for quite some time. We began our journey in prepositions. We've been looking at that. And so I want to continue that together by going back to a passage that we ended with last time in Ephesians, where we were applying this sort of grid, these steps to determine, one, if we have a prepositional phrase, and then secondly, what that phrase is modifying and how it modifies it. And we had this little 3-step routine that was, first, we want to confirm if we have a prepositional phrase, because as we're going to see today and next week, there are a few other parts of speech that are use prepositions, but they are not preposition. They don't introduce prepositional phrases. And that is really what makes these prepositions confusing. And so I want to show you there's two other types that where prepositions are used, but they're not used for a prepositional phrase. They're used for other purposes. And hopefully in going through that, it'll help you see have more clarity as you're studying passages. So first we want to confirm, is this a prepositional phrase? How do we do that? We do that by identifying what follows. If it's a noun, we have a prepositional phrase. If it's something else, like a verb, for example, then we don't have a prepositional phrase. We have something else. I'll show you that. Identify the word, then the second step, just before the preposition. So once we confirm we have a prepositional phrase, we then want to determine, well, what does it modify? And normally, by rule of proximity, it usually modifies the word right before. But not always. I think in the examples we looked at last time, we saw that it was about 70% of the time it modified the word before, but not always. It often may modify a word before that. So we want to do that process where we check the word right before to see, does it make sense that this phrase could modify that word? If not, we go to the word before that, until we identify the word where it makes sense. And then the summary is just, what does that phrase modify? How does it modify it? So that's what we've been focusing on in our recent sessions together. So I want to go back to the passage that we had looked at last time, and just identify the prepositions and then make some remarks. Before we do that, before I call on one of you to begin doing that for us, just remember the 9 most common prepositions as you're looking for prepositions in the paragraph. The 9 most common ones, which in our previous look occurred about, I think 80% of the prepositions we looked at so far in Bible verses have been from, or I think it was 10 out of 14. So that's what? 5 out of 7. So yeah, it's almost 80% of the verses words that we looked at, prepositions we looked at were these 9, one of these 9. So they're the most common by far. So it's good to memorize these, a with boot, and that will help us as we're trying to identify prepositions. All right, so Robbie, yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but your screen is not clear. I mean, the screen that you're showing, is it just me, or
yeah, it pixelates, Pastor Robbie. I thought it was
yes, mine also. I thought it was just mine.
so we cannot read the words.
Oh,
We can see the screen, Tim, but
I thought it was
it's
connection.
very pixelated, Pastor Tim.
It's blurred.
yeah, it's
all right.
blurred.
Let me do this. Let me I'm gonna log out, but I'll just leave Robbie. I'll make you the host. I'll log out, then I'll log back in, and let's just see if that will.
No, can you make Tabs the host? Is more familiar with this than I am.
Oh, sure.
You know,
Yeah, you don't have to do
I'm an old
anything.
fogey, so
It'll just
okay. Fine.
it'll keep the Zoom meeting
Right.
on while I leave. So let me do that. Okay. Tabs, I'll make you so you're the boss now.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to teach. All right. And then I'll reboot my computer and come back. So I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah.
Let's see.
All right.